The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
We are coming up on the September 19th preliminary election, and we're speaking to as many candidates as possible to help you make informed choices when you go to the ballot box. We're focusing on the City Council race today, and I'm pleased to be joined by incumbent and longtime City Councilor Linda Pereira. Councilor, thank you for joining me. How are you?
I'm well, and thank you for this opportunity. I think it's great that the BCC TV does this.
Yeah, we're happy to do it because we're here to get people the information, let them make their own decisions.
Good.
Let me ask you, you're one of the longer serving councilors.
Are you trying to say I'm older?
That's
okay, Keith.
You've been there longer than others, let's just say that. What keeps you excited about being a city councilor? And then I guess why you're running again this year. I guess that's the same question.
I think what keeps me most excited is helping people.
Yeah.
Because I get calls from so many people with a variety of different issues, some that don't even have anything to do with the legislation on the council, which is my role. But whatever the issue is, when they call, you try to help them. You know, some people say, well, I got this call and I thought it was silly. Well, maybe to you it's silly, but not to that person that's calling you. So I try to help as many people as I possibly can. That's what I look at my role, and trying to put in resolutions to change Fall River, to make Fall River better. Sometimes we put in legislation, but you don't have people working in city government to be able to monitor that. So why do you put something in when you can't have it monitored? It doesn't make sense to me. Right now, certainly the biggest crisis facing the city is the housing market. And I feel badly for senior citizens who've lived. I mean, I had a lady call me, 40 years she's lived in this apartment, and you know, she was paying $750, and now somebody buys it and it's $1,400, when her and her husband only bring in about $1,900 a month through Social Security. Those are the people that I'm concerned with, and I think what needs to happen, if you're over 70, you can get an exemption on your taxes, but the amount that you have to bring in is smaller than, you know, it's higher than what people's needs are. I think that they need to change that so that more people are eligible for an exemption. Yeah. And they just had something this week at the Ordinance Committee meeting to try to do that for veterans. But veterans, it's the same thing. If you want to get Chapter 115 money, the state reimburses us a portion of that. But again, the dollar amount of what your income needs to be monthly is too low than what most people bring in. Yeah. So that prohibits them, and that's something that I think that the city should look at changing. I thought the state was going to change it, but they didn't. It didn't get in.
Let me ask you, the role of the council, of course, is to be the legislative branch and sort of do a checks and balances, you know, on the administration. Have you seen over the years anything change in that in terms of your years as a city councilor in general?
No, I don't think so. I think the role is there. You know what your role is. But I do have meetings with the mayor frequently when, you know, we get the agenda or things that I have concerns with. And we can agree to disagree. And we have done that on several occasions. But that's what you do. You don't take it personal. You know, you just advocate your side and he'll advocate his side. He's very, very, very money conscious. Doesn't want to spend money that he doesn't have to, and I admire that as well. But I think when people are hurting, you know, we need to look at what can we do with ARPA money that is going to prolong. I mean, right now we have an issue with the Armory. I say, save it. You're not going to fix it overnight, but you talk about the youth of our city and the youth have nothing to do. Why not do that? You know, do the Armory. Veterans would have a place to be. It was their building to begin with. And in 2015, when everybody was kind of put out of there, but there's venues and events and things that you could have there. So if that means, you know, we have somebody in City Hall now who plans all the events, that a coordinator. Put something there. Make that a tourism stop where people can come in and see all of the things Fall River has to offer. I've been fighting for a trolley. If you had a trolley that did a loop from Battleship all the way around the city where people could get off and on, partner up with some of the students here at BCC to do a history of Fall River. If you think going to, the Carolinas and seeing these older homes and they do tours, they are nothing compared to the older homes we have here in the Highlands.
Yeah.
And who the architects were, Durfee High School being a replica of the City Hall in Paris. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
We don't know how to promote ourselves.
Yeah, and that's been a problem for a while. I mean, especially if the city wants to expand into the tourism realm. I mean, the mayor has, forged partnerships with Viva Fall River and the Chamber, and now we've got more arts with FRAC and CAN in Fall River. It's been an issue for quite some time.
People all need to work together to make Fall River better. And I find that sometimes groups want to go off on their own and do things, where I think if there was a coalition of everybody working together, that's why I was against opera money going to any place other than the city. I felt that the city should hire its own tourism director. And that tourism director would look at all these other groups and what events they were having and cultural things that were going on. And that would be a conduit to the city. But you don't win all your battles.
Yeah.
And I think that they're doing a pretty decent job. But there's a lot that goes on.
Yeah. Let me ask you about public safety. There's been a lot of concern about staffing in the police department. A lot has been impacted. Probably since 2020 and George Floyd, the perception of police has changed in a lot of urban areas like Fall River. I know as a city council, you only can allocate the funds that they need. But is there anything that a council can do to help with, boots on the ground?
Well, we have put more money in. We do feel that, I support our police, and I agree that once in a while there's a bad apple. But by and large, we have a good police force of men and women on the streets. Because of everything that went on, you have people who do not want to be police officers anymore. And we have police officers who have left to go to the fire department. We have police officers who have left to go to towns because they're getting paid more money. So would you blame somebody for leaving and going somewhere, and making more money? You can't blame them. And how much more can we pay them? How much more can we afford? We raised taxes 2.5%, and people thought, we raised it more than that. We didn't, but the property values increased. But the percentage was at that 2.5. But I have interacted with many police officers over my job, protecting children, and my job supporting victims at the DA's office. And I've always had very good interaction with police officers, and they work hard. Now we do have, and I've noticed we have a lot of state police that are in the area too, helping out, which is a good thing. And then you have to wait for the classes. So you get hired, then you go to a class, then when you leave the class, you have to buddy up with someone for a certain amount of time before you're out on the street.
Period, yeah.
So that all takes time, and in the interim, you end up short. But the chief is working on that, and we are slowly getting there.
Yeah. You mentioned some of the things that are of importance to you: housing, veterans. Are those the dominant calls you get now? And I guess how has that changed again over the years?
No, I do get a lot of calls about that, or calls about a street that something was done and it wasn't repaired. And now with a lot of these street repairs in buildings, I've got a call, well, they fixed the street, they were jackhammering. Now I have 2 cracks in my foundation that I didn't have before. So, we're working on that as well.
Yeah. So in terms of looking ahead, and we'll have an opportunity to speak again before November, but as you look ahead, what do you hope that you can do differently if you're afforded another 2-year term?
Differently?
Yeah.
I'll continue to fight like I always do
Yeah.
on whatever issue comes forward. I don't think that I would do anything different.
Yeah. Maybe a topic you'd want to explore that.
Well, one of the topics I'd like to explore when you were talking about police shortage is that you can have volunteers come in, and we always had that with auxiliary police, and then they changed that. But we have a lot of processions in the area, a lot of feasts, and we're known for that, and we do get a lot of tourism. This week we're going to have the feast at Kennedy Park, and it needs to be a lot of manpower. But with everything that we're doing, it should be police officers first taking a detail, and retired police officers taking a detail, retired firefighters, city workers taking details, even if they're retired, and then the public at large, and paying them. Paying them. They're not stepping on the toes of the union or stepping on the toes of police officers, but we need more people. And sometimes police officers are forced overtime. They're tired, and they don't want to take a detail, and I can't blame them. They need to,
Burnout
relax.
could be an issue.
Burnout could be an issue.
Yeah.
So I think that something like that is worth looking into, because if we could do that, then there may be people who would want to do that, and call it, traffic control unit or something, because that's what they would do.
Yeah.
And I think that the unions would be in support of that, as long as all the officers got first dibs, which I think they should, and retired officers as well. Because now I believe the new law was that a retired officer, once you're 70, you can't work on a detail. Why? There are some people who are 70 who, jog, who work out, who, are healthy.
Spry. Yeah.
So, do you need a medical thing? I mean, look at that. I hate when we limit people to an age. Like, you can't do this because you're too old.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, Councilor Pereira, thank you for your time, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to speak before the November election. Thank
Absolutely.
you. All the
and
best.
Again, thank you so much, and
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate all that BCC TV does
Thank you.
for the community.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us here in FRC Media. I'm Keith Tebow. Please make a point to vote on Tuesday, September 19th.